Hey, beautiful souls. What if there was one thing that was standing in the way of you living the life that you truly want? A life that is free from fear and overwhelm and anxiety and chaos. And what if that one thing that's standing in your way is the way that you think? Most of us are prisoners to our thoughts. We cycle around the same fears and frustrations and problems, but never actually get to the root of the cause of our upset and problems. But the truth is, my friends, the cause of our problems is not in the world or in the governments or in our family or in our past or in our trauma or in our present circumstance. The problem is an untrained mind. And the untrained mind is an epidemic in our world at large. All of the wars and the suffering and the blame and the attack and the abuse, it's coming from untrained minds that are literally projecting lack of love onto our world. So if we want anything in our life circumstance to change or in our world to change, we are going to have to learn how to train our mind. But this is not typical mind training like meditation. This is transformational mind training that brings to us a life of miracles, joy, and peace. I don't know about you, but that's the type of life I want to live and want my world to be so my children can grow up and experience a life that reflects their soul and the love that they are instead of the fear and the upset and the anger that it's been uncorrected. So, my friends, there is good news here. The good news is that you can learn to train your mind. And when you train your mind, it changes everything, quite literally everything. This isn't hyperbole. Mind training is the key to shift from chaos to clarity, from fear to love, and from limitation to miracles. Okay. These miracles are literal tools that express naturally when we are aligned with love. And if you've ever thought to yourself, I can't do that, or that's too hard, or that's going to take too much time, or I'm not good enough, stick with me till the end, okay? Because I'm going to make sure you know a few things. The one thing that you're going to know is who needs mind training and what mind training actually is, what happens if you don't train your mind, and the incredible miracles that can flow when you do train your mind. So, this is an invitation to step out of the fog of fear and into the love where your purpose and your joy and your peace is. So, my friends, welcome to Miracles of Mind. I am Britney Shawley, and I've been a spiritual therapist for the last 15 years, helping beautiful souls just like you to apply A Course in Miracles to their life so they can truly shift from fear to love and from pain to joy in all areas of their life experience. And while you're here, I'm just going to assume that you were sent. And so I'm going to suggest that you make sure you like and you subscribe and even comment down below so that you never miss a video. I send out videos every single Saturday around similar content to help you in your spiritual growth journey. So, my friends, I'm so glad you're here. Are you ready to dive into Mind Training 101? I have a client who's now a dear friend. Her name is Kendra. And when I met her, her life was quite a disaster. She was absolutely exhausted. She was a busy working mom. She would have to juggle her job and her family life and all of the to dos in between. And she was starting to feel suffocated by life itself. When I met her, she was in a breakdown mode. She could barely talk without crying. And when I met with her for the first time of our one on one sessions together, she relayed to me a story that brought her to that brink of like, something needs to be different. Like, there must be a better way. And that breaking point for her was one day when it just all accumulated and she went to work like normal. But on this day, for whatever reason, she was so scattered that she forgot a work meeting. After the work meeting was over, her boss got so mad at her. Her coworkers were just getting like snide remarks to her. She felt so bad and so emotionally distraught that she even ran out of time trying to make up for the mistake she made earlier in the day. And she was late to pick up her kids. She was telling me when she's in the car on the way to pick her kids up that the thoughts in her head are like, what is wrong with you? Why are you such a failure? You never get anything right. You are worthless. Maybe you shouldn't be here anyway. Like, you're not even a good mom. Like, right? All of the thoughts, all of the fears screaming at her. And she believed them all to be real. She had no idea that she could question her thoughts. She had no idea that just because she thought her thoughts, that doesn't make it true. Okay. So she was really at the beginning stages of having no idea that her thoughts are creating her experience and that her thoughts are contributing to the suffering in her life. So that was the number one thing that I wanted her to see, that her thoughts are not just running her life, but her thoughts are ruining her life. This wasn't to point out that she was to blame for what was happening. This was to point out that she is responsible. And because she is responsible, she can choose to respond differently to situations. And this is where we started for her, in that power of responsibility that she can train her mind starting today. Okay. Do you relate to this? Did you relate to this? Do you know someone who does or is or has? Let us know below so that people can realize that they're not alone. When I was talking to Kendra about this and pointing it to her mind, what she was saying to me is that she really thought her job was the problem. Her relationship was the problem. Her past was the problem. Maybe being unprepared for parenthood and having a busy schedule was her problem. And I was like, no, 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 girlfriend. You have one problem. Your one problem is your lack of mind training. Do you train your mind right now? No. What does that mean? Well, exactly. You need to train your mind. Okay. We're going to get to what it is in a hot minute, by the way. I want to point out that this is a state of similar mental chaos that the majority of us are in, or at least a small degree in there. And the whole point is for us to realize that it doesn't need to be that way. It doesn't need to be that way. We can all learn how to train our mind and realize that there's only one enemy and there's only one problem, and that is our ego. The ego is the enemy. Untrained mind is the problem. And so let's go there. Are we ready to just dive in there? Let's do it. So let's start with part one, really. What is mind training? What is mind training? I don't know if you've noticed, school doesn't teach mind training. Not even post grad teaches mind training. Okay. Not even like the majority of psychologists understand mind training. This is a truly new tool that has been founded in universal wisdom across the ages, but for some reason has been misunderstood. Okay, it has been misunderstood. So we need to clear it all up today. The place that I want to start is that mind training is not meditation. Okay, it's not just sitting there and watching your thoughts or, seeing it as if it's like a movie screen in your mind. Okay, that's not mind training. That is meditation. Meditation is helpful. I'm not against meditation. I teach it and preach it all the time. But mind training is different. Mind training shows us that it's not just what we think, but it's also what we don't want to think. So it puts us in that position of choosing, that it's not just thinking positive thoughts, that it's undoing erroneous thoughts. Okay. Mind training is discerning between our thoughts that are of ego, which are false and painful, and our thoughts, which are of love, which are real, changeless, trustworthy, and of our creator. Our thoughts of love extend from the same source of love, and therefore it is part of the universal plan for peace, and therefore it is fully trustworthy. When we train our mind to step into the love instead of the fear, again, everything changes. So mind training is a practice of consciously deciding what we want to think and what we don't want to think. It's very, very important to do both. The spiritual community is very big on positive thoughts, but they don't realize that the uncorrected negative thoughts that are in your psyche are what's actually ruling your life. Okay. So this is what we're getting at today. Okay. So I have done recent videos on the ego, and I've also done recent videos on our inner guidance system. So if you want support in understanding more about the problem, which is the ego, and not training it, right? And know more about your inner guidance system, which is going to help you to train your mind and get you out of ego, then go check those videos. Okay. I'm going to put links down below for you to check them at the end of this video as well. So we must train our minds to know the difference between fear and love. Easy peasy, right? The analogy that I sometimes like to give is like a runaway horse, right? More like a wild horse. Wild horses running wild in the wild, right? So you can jump on one of those wild horses. It'll take you just about anywhere, but it'll very very rarely take you to where you want to go. So we want to go into the direction of the life that we want to live and of the world that we want our children to grow up in. Like that's the direction we're going. Okay. So we need to realize that we don't want to just jump on the wild horse, which is our ego, monkey mind, bouncing all over the place, never stops thinking, never stops doing, never stops questioning, never stops freaking out. We need to get out of that wild horse, that monkey mind, and into the calm state of surrendered acceptance that love is what is real. And there's a voice for love in my mind, and I can follow it. Okay. I can follow it. And the more you practice mind training, the more you will have trust in this voice for love. I promise you. I promise with you with every level of my being, and I'll show you. Let's continue the story of Kendra, shall we? I want to make it a little bit more practical for you. So, the more that I worked with Kendra and the more that I taught her the difference between her ego and her spirit, and that she can train her mind, she really started to accept the idea that she doesn't have to believe everything she thinks, finally, right? She doesn't have to believe everything she thinks. And that just because she thinks it doesn't make it true, right? Ego speaks loud and first. Just because it speaks loud and first doesn't make it true. Okay. So, what ended up happening is that the next time she heard familiar thoughts like, what's wrong with you? Or you're a failure, or you're not good enough, you're not going to get that right. Anytime she heard these thoughts, instead of just going along with it and then tumbling down that emotional roller coaster of pain that comes from believing those thoughts, she started to question her thoughts. And so she started to be like, wait a minute, is that true? Am I a failure? I don't know if that's actually true, right? And then she can ask, is this thought helping me or hurting me? Clearly, a thought that's going to tell you that you're not good enough is harming you. Of course, you're good enough. Love made you out of love. Like, that is what you are. You are always good enough. You may make mistakes, you may have stuff to learn, but that doesn't mean anything about who you are. So, we really have to question, is this helping me or is this harming me? And that will help you to discern between the two voices and to really train your mind. And then the last question that she would ask was, um, well, what would happen if I let it go? Right. So, not even going to the point of letting it go just yet, but like, well, what would happen? Like, what would happen if I didn't entertain this thought of failure and I didn't entertain this thought of not good enough? What could my life be like without these thoughts? Really go there, really think about it, really question it, really contemplate it, because it's a power that comes from from this questioning and from this internal introspection and contemplation. Like, this is freedom's right around the corner when we do this. Like, I'm so excited for you. Just knowing that I'm sharing this with you. Okay. So, for the first time ever, Kendra started to notice this sliver of space between her thoughts. So instead of it just ping ponging like the monkey mind does, there was space between the thoughts. And in that space, she started to realize she had a choice. In that space, she started to realize that there was a calmer voice inside, that there was a whispering voice of love, that when she's lovingly being a mother to her kids, this inner voice can lovingly be a mother, a guide, a comforter, and a friend to her. So she started to pay attention to those slivers of space in her mind. And that is when the peace started to grow, the clarity started to grow, the confidence started to grow. So then now that love is more predominant in her mind than fear. And what she saw is that when that fear popped up to interfere with the peace that was growing, she looked at it as if she was holding on to like normally I use a ball as an example, but I have a little scrunchie here. It just happens to be here. Um, so it's like this. This is like your thoughts. Your mind, your ego mind, is holding on to ego thoughts. Ego thoughts, we've already talked about it, our fear, our painful, our unworthiness, lack, etc. We are realizing that we are in control of our thoughts. Our thoughts do not rule us. There's a thought in A Course in Miracles that says, I rule my mind, which I alone must rule. So what that says is if you're holding on to a thought that's causing you pain, guess what? You can let it go just like that. You can literally open up your hand and have it fall away, literally let go. So this is what Kendra started to do. She just started to let go of these thoughts. She started to realize, I don't want to think these thoughts. She started to focus on what she does want to think about, and her whole entire life changed. And now she was observing her thoughts without judgment. She was questioning the thoughts that were causing her pain. And now she's starting to respond to situations with intention. Okay. Responding from this place of calm certainty, instead of from this fearful, me, I'm not good enough place. Okay. And so the beautiful part about this, like my favorite part about this, is her circumstances did not need to change for her to have more peace, more calm, more confidence, and more understanding. Like she didn't need her external circumstances to change. And so she realized that all of the change happened within her, and then it changed everything else. So when she would come home from a busy day at work and be so stressed out, she would project that onto her husband, and she would get mad at her husband. She'd get irritated with the kids. She'd just scroll on the phone and then go to bed. Like a really small evening routine that would repeat every single day, right? Like it wasn't really serving her at all. It was getting her husband upset. It was getting her kids upset. Like it was just disaster to everyone. But now what happens is when she walked in the house, she was feeling more centered. She was able to actually choose love, have more patience with her kids, have more open heartedness to her husband. Everything in her life started to change. Everything. Then and then, when everything outside her was shifting and changing to match the shifts and changings that was happening within, she had enough confidence to quit her job. And she actually realized, you know what? This isn't serving me. It isn't aligning with my love. It's not worth my stress and my pain. And she let that job go. And she pivoted and she opened and then she started to receive what her purpose was here. And now she's actively in the center of the fulfillment of her purpose in her everyday life. It pivoted her life from pain to purpose. Simply mind training did. Mind training. How beautiful is that? You had the power to do that starting today. Have you trained your mind before? Have you been using tools to train your mind? If so, let us know below. Let us know what has helped you. But also let me know if I'm speaking to you in a place of discontent or upset or difficulty, and you realize that mind training might be the thing for you. Let us know below, okay, my friends? Mind training is something that is free, and we all can do it now today, okay? I'm like overjoyed to tell this to you. But let me just like remind you of what's going to happen if you don't train your mind. Can I remind you of the cost of not training your mind? Kind of intense. Okay. The cost of not training your mind or avoiding mind training is that you become susceptible to the mandates of the ego, i.e., you're a slave to fear. That's just what happens. That's just what happens. Ego is the human mind. It speaks loud and it speaks first. If you don't train your mind to get ego out of the way, you're susceptible to its mandates. Can't speak apparently. Susceptible to its mandates. Ego only offers you what you don't want, what you don't like, and what you don't want to have. Sometimes good things come in it because you're a beautiful soul and the universe is loving and good and wants to support you. But that's a lot of the time when we sink out of our ego and we align ourselves with the love that we are, that good things happen. Otherwise, ego just brings to us what we don't want and what we don't like, and we repeat the same patterns over and over again. It's exhausting. It's absolutely exhausting. And so you will remain stuck in that state of inner discontent. Okay. You will live as a victim to your thoughts instead of the creator of your experience. And when we're a victim to our thoughts, we literally project being a victim onto the world. And then we have these experiences with people in the world that can be traumatic. Okay. But a lot of it has to do with our thoughts and our thoughts being formatted around the idea of being victim, not good enough, unworthy, small, limited, separate. Right. You also then miss out on peace and freedom and joy, which is your natural state as a soul and a being of love. And you will remain at odds in your relationships, and you will be uncertain about who you are and why you're here. And you'll be susceptible to being overwhelmed and feeling crappy and feeling, unwell and triggered. So this is the kind of life that you can expect for yourself, one that's also filled with lack, and uncertainty. If you don't train your mind, I don't want that for you anymore. That needs to end. It needs to end in us, or it needs to end in the world. Do you agree? Say yes below. Just say yes below if you agree with me. We need power to this. We need to be the forces of love in this world, just like there's so many forces of hate. Like, it's time. Let's do this. Let's do this, my friends. Okay, so we're leaning into the last parts here. Okay. I want you to remember as well what happens when you do train your mind. When you do train your mind, everything changes. Mind, relationships, and life outside of you, because you start to project love on your world instead of fear, and your whole world will respond differently when you think differently. Okay. It really will transform your relationships, but that's also relationships with money, relationships with food, relationships with family, relationships with friends, relationships with work. Like everything is a relationship. And when you change your relationship to yourself, how can that not change to everything else? Oh my gosh, guys, you will become healthier. Then your family becomes healthier and happier. Your community becomes healthier and happier because it. That's how our countries become healthier and happier, and that's how our world becomes healthier and happier. It starts with you. It starts with us. It starts with you. It starts with us. Okay. Mind training is so powerful that it can literally trigger laws that unlock miracles. Miracles, according to A Course in Miracles, express naturally when we're in the state of love. Miracles exist at the base of your subconscious. They're in you. They're in you now. We've just filled up the upper echelons of our mind with fear, with ego. So we need to train our mind and clear that all out so that the miracles that are here can spring forth unabated. They can spring forth and extend to everyone and everything that they're meant to bless. You have the power within you to trigger laws that unleash miracles in this world. Kind of a big deal. Kind of a big deal. Right? And just imagine a world where people choose love over fear. Imagine a world where people train their mind and they're feeling more calm instead of chaotic. Imagine a world where our hearts are open to each other and into positive change in all aspects of life on earth. I mean, that's a happy thing for me, right? And of course, miracles, it says like salvation, healing our mind. Mind training is a game that happy children play. Okay. We're happy children of the universe, happy children of love, happy children of God. That's our natural birthright. Like that's the truth about us. So it's our time to clear out the junk that's standing in the way of what is possible for you, for me, for all of us. So let's work on the mind training then. Do you agree? Do you want to work on the mind training with me? So this is how you get started. And very similar to what I shared with you in regards to Kendra, it's got to be observing and questioning. That's like the first two steps of getting started with mind training. You got to observe your thinking and then you've got to mind train. Like I remember the first time that I was made aware of my thoughts. I went up to my dad and I remember standing at the bottom of our driveway and I'm talking to my dad. And he recently got into like, Think and Grow Rich and, a whole bunch of those spiritual teachers at the time. And so he was all about the power of thoughts. And I remember going up to him like, hey, dad, I have this big decision I need to make in my life. Like, what do you think? What do you think that I should do? And then he looks at me and goes, well, Britt, what do you think? What do I think? What do I think? Oh, and it was so radical for me, which is kind of weird to even say, like, but it was radical for me to be like, well, what am I thinking about this? Because I was always like, well, what do my teachers think? And what do my mom think? And what do my dad think? And what does the world think? And what does everybody else think about me? It was never, what do I think? So that's where everything changes is when you start to observe your thinking. So that's the first tool for you. What am I thinking? Ask it and then pause and observe. What am I thinking? Did you do it? What am I thinking? Observe. Okay. That's the first number one. Okay. First step. And then you can ask, is this thought from fear or love? Or is this thought helping me or harming me? It's the same thing. And be radically honest. Be radically honest. Okay. If it's coming from fear or for love for you. And then when you know if something's coming from fear or love, you obviously know that you want to let go of the fear and you want to hold on to the love. So this is when you can start to do some deep introspection. Maybe journal, get out your journal and write it down. Like, what thoughts do I want to keep? What beliefs do I want to challenge? What thoughts do I want to let go of? What beliefs do I want to hold on to or maybe create that I haven't even had or thought or believed before? Right. So it's this idea of realizing that you rule your mind and you alone must rule. You choose what's in your mind. You alone must choose what's in your mind. And so you can choose to have only love in your mind and let everything else go. And the reason why you want to do that is because you're a whole and complete being. You're not split. Fear is the human condition, but you are a soul. You're so much more than a mere mortal. Okay. And even though fear is the human condition, it's not natural. It's learned. It's not natural. What's natural is love. Love is not taught. Love is not learned. Love is what you are. Okay. Love is what you are. It's what we are. And so what we're doing is we're naturally coming back into what is natural, which means we have to let go of fear and we have to let go of ego. It doesn't offer us anything but suffering. There's no loss to letting it go except for pain. Goodbye, pain. I don't want you anymore. Anyways, right, friends? Right. If you're ready, though, to take it beyond just observing and questioning your thinking, which is the first step, and it's necessary to do that first before anything else, you're ready for the next step. And you're ready to go into the big leagues. And you're ready to be like, no, I want miracles in my life. I want that peace, that joy, that purpose. Give it to me. Well, then you're going to need to commit to a mind training curriculum. And the mind training curriculum that I suggest is A Course in Miracles. A Course in Miracles is a psychological mind training tool. Okay. It is a universal metaphysical teaching that's to help you to undo and let go of the ego through forgiveness, through mind training, so that you can return to the love that you are. When you return to the love that you are, you found your purpose and your peace, and it will radiate from you and bless your world with miracles. So if you're ready for A Course in Miracles, if you're interested in A Course in Miracles, if you're curious about A Course in Miracles, I have links for you down below. If you want support in starting A Course in Miracles, I have a 5-day workbook challenge. If you have any questions about it, ask me below. You can even sign up for my newsletter. I do a Q&A every single Friday so I can help answer your questions. But for me, I'm all about practicality. The Course in Miracles is the most practical course that you could ever take on the healing of your mind and for mind training. But if you feel like the Course in Miracles is a little bit too much for you right now, maybe it's a little bit much of a reach, which I respect and I understand. We need to be called to the course and at a time when we're ready. Then I recommend something like The Power of Now. Have you read The Power of Now? The Power of Now prepared me for A Course in Miracles. I feel like it helped me with the observing and the questioning and the stepping back and the allowing and the letting go. And so it is a helpful tool to support. So The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, wonderful spiritual teacher that can really help you to train your mind. Okay, if you're before A Course in Miracles, and I'm totally fine with that. Whatever you need to do to help you train your mind is what I'm all about. Okay, I'm here to support you with any of it. Now that we know about mind training and that mind training can transform every aspect of your life, there's only one question left. Are you going to continue to let your thoughts control you in your life, or are you going to reclaim your power? If you're going to reclaim your power, that means saying yes to mind training, committing to it every day. If you need to learn a new skill like cooking or riding a bike or even walking as a little toddler, you practice every single day. Okay. If you want to go to school and you want to learn a course, you go to class when class is on. So setting up study periods for questioning and listening and observing, setting up study periods with the Course in Miracles or the Power of Now or anything else that suits you, do it. Be committed to it. But this is your time to choose to be the powerful one and to decide for mind training. So let's remember when Kendra made the choice to train her mind, her whole life changed. She became more in accord with peace and with purpose and with joy. Her relationships healed because her mind did. This is something that I want all of you to experience, and it starts today. So if you're ready to do this, say yes. If you're ready to do this, don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you're ready to do this, continue to watch this video on the next screen because I think it will help you with the next steps in your journey. Your mind is capable of miracles, my friends. It's time to unlock them. Peace.